Hello, everybody, and welcome to the ProgCast. I'm Gregg Bendian, your host, and trying something a little different here today. First time I've been able to do this, but you know, when I started the series, I knew that I would want to feature my solid LA compatriot dudes, and they're here with me today. We have a lot of history. We've worked together in a lot of different situations and made a lot of really cool music together. So when I started doing the series, I knew I was going to have Nels Cline, which I have now had a couple hours with him coming up. And then also now I have a reunion of sorts with my buddies from Bone Structure. So
Greetings.
Hey, Stinson, Jeff Gauthier, Steuart Liebig. Welcome to the ProgCast.
Thank
Good
you.
to be here. Hey, dudes.
It's pretty funny.
This is the first time we've seen each other in how long?
Yeah.
Like 20 some years, maybe? I don't even know.
All in the same room.
Yeah, that's
Well,
weird.
You know, I was looking at some of the dates of things, and you guys were as well, as we were sort of jogging our memories about the various things that we've done. And I think the last thing that happened was Goat Structure. And that was when we did a night at the Stone in New York City when GE couldn't come out, and Dave Witham stood in for him on keyboards. So there's all sorts of tangents here, and incestuous relationships and things of that nature. So a lot of history with these guys. I did want to open by saying I always felt welcome on the LA scene coming from New York, and you won't find a more welcoming place. It was always all about the music when I would go to LA to play with Interzone guys, as you know, the stuff with Nels and Nels Cline, and Steuart Liebig, our friend here, was the wonderful bass player on our second album, Myriad, where I wrote all of those bass parts specifically with Steuart's playing in mind and all the different bass factors.
You didn't make them simple enough for me.
Hey man, I want to give people stuff to do. You know, I'm a Colin Moulding fan.
Oh, well, good. So am I.
He's
Right.
awesome.
So, you know, speaking of weird rock bands, I love weird rock bands. And to me, you couldn't find a weirder rock band than Bone Structure.
That's true. That's very true. But it is a rock band in a way, yeah.
So it was like we had our acoustic side, but, you know, we had so much turf that we covered. And it's really why the group has held up for me as something I'm very proud of and something I'm still really excited about. And I still have fans that contact me to talk about this record. Somebody just posted it. You go to my Facebook page right now, you can see that somebody just posted that they found it in a record store and picked it up last week.
Oh, that was
And it was
No.
Jeff. Check's in the mail, Jeff.
Stop that.
That went well. So, but you know, I like to say that, and I like to say that it was always fun with you guys, and it's always creative, and it's always open, and that means a lot when you're talking about a long-term sort of playing. And it's and you know, we were sporadic, obviously, and I'm just happy that things got documented, but it always seemed fresh to me, and that's to me a very high compliment for something that has stood up. And we're talking about the album was recorded in 2000, I think. Is that right, Jeff?
That sounds about right to me. I think it was one of the last things ever done publicly at Mad Hatter Studios.
Right.
Oh,
It
is
was
that-
recorded at Mad Hatter Chick Corea
yes.
studio.
Can we tell the story about that? It's a great story.
If you can remember it, go ahead.
Master tapes?
Yeah,
Well,
you don't remember that they lost the master tapes, and Wayne Pete had to redo then they gave us free time. We went in, we did a whole new record, but we liked some of the other stuff so much that Wayne had to match the reference DATs to the actual finished recording.
Is that what happened?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, Wayne Pete, the wizard. That's what I heard, is that he had to match the reference tapes to the final mix.
But let me jump in and say big props and a shout out to Rich Breen.
Yeah.
Who?
Rich Breen.
Okay.
Jeff.
Yes, Rich Breen, recording engineer for almost every Cryptogramophone record, CDs.
Okay.
And it shows.
Oh, he recorded that. That's right.
It shows all the way through, and we threw some stuff at him. It was very dynamic. I like to think that for me, all the best projects are dynamic, and dynamic is what Bone Structure was. And I love that we could change textures on a dime. I love that we could get loud and rowdy, and I love that we could go full chamber.
So, listening to the Knitting Factory BET thing, we go into a boogie. It cracked me up. We're doing this thing and all of a sudden it's like what? We do a boogie. I'm just freaking out. Anyway, I'm apparently the only person impressed by that. Never mind.
No, Steuart, actually, you set me up, because what I wanted to say was Steuart and I came to Bone Structure with some playing experience together. In fact, I had hired Steuart to play bass with my piano trio Pianissimo, on a couple of clinics that we did. Remember that, Stu? I thought that was after the Bone Structure thing. I thought the Interzone thing was first, because I remember that date because I couldn't read your charts and I wanted to kill myself at the end of it. Great.
Because Joel couldn't do it. So it's you're going can you do it? I'm going dude, my reading's not as good for this stuff as it should be.
Oh.
That's what I remember. I was mortified. I felt like swallowing my own face.
Swallowing your own face?
Dude, I'm tripping. What do I know?
Well, we had done a few things, and I guess I wanted to throw to you guys and say, what are your recollections of things that we did in general? I mean, I know it's hard to pinpoint times, but I'm always interested in sort of the evolution of, oh, you're playing with so-and-so, then we should try this. And maybe what were some of the first times you recall us playing together?
Well, I think the first gig we ever did was at the NID in New York, wasn't it?
At your instigation?
Yeah, I don't remember who. I was coming there to do a gig. I was offered a gig at the Alternate, and I didn't know who to do it with, and you were the logical choice for drummer. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I just said, well, let's get Steuart and Jeff too, because Jeff and I had been playing in the trio with Alex. And I think that's the first gig we did. Is that anyone else's recollection? But it wasn't as Bone Structure. It was the G.E. Stinson Quartet or something like that.
Yeah, it was. I think that's right. Though I feel like at some point, I thought I met Gregg Bendian at Thelma Kline's house, but I don't know. So,
well, that's true. I'm just talking about the first time the four of us played together.
Right. And, yeah, okay. That sounds about right.
Now, can you place a recollection that I have that we early on played on a double bill with something of Chris Garcia in a dance space where I was able to play, I think, a grand piano at some point in the performance, which kept that sort of thing going that we had.
Oh my God, I forgot about that gig. That was Conjunctive Points, Jeff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really glad you fellows remember that, because I have no memory at all.
I'd forgotten about it too, but yeah, that's the only place that could have been.
Yeah, actually, Chris Garcia reminded me of that a while back, and I was completely foggy, not about the place, but about the gig. So, yeah, I don't remember the piano there. I remember the piano at Spruce Street Forum.
Huh, yeah. That would have been San Diego.
Oh, okay. So there's a Bone Structure at Spruce Street.
Yeah, and that's where the cut from GE's album Vapor was recorded. It's there in San Diego. And I assume there's other material from that because Wayne apparently recorded it. So.
Wow, I'd forgotten about that.
Well, you see, Mr. Bendian said, let's talk about some of this stuff. And he said, reference this album. So I told you, I looked at the album today and I read all the liner notes.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah.
So I prepared.
I've gotten a lot of things I did at Street Forum. Like Nelson, I did a duo there at one point. I'd totally forgotten about it.
Yeah. So anyway, there's probably some tapes of more Bone Structure in San Diego.
At Wayne, I wonder, Wayne probably has it then, right? That would be interesting.
That'd be a trip, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wayne
Well,
P.
there's also a recording of the knit as well.
The first one in New York.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have that. Did I give
Yeah.
that to you guys?
I have a
Is
copy
it
of it somewhere on ADAT or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Is it any good?
I haven't heard. It was good actually. It was really good, and I remember that gig because if you recall, I had used Dave Fusinski's guitar amp for the rehearsal, which was like the best guitar amp in the universe. And then, but it wasn't available for the gig, and I had to borrow Thurston Moore's PV transistor amp, and it sounded horrible to me. And I think it was Greg who finally said to me, have you listened to that tape? And I said, no, I hate the way the guitar sounds. He said, I think you should check it out. You remember this, Greg?
I do not, but go ahead.
But you called me like maybe 4 years later and said, have you listened to that tape? And I said, no, I hate the guitar sound. You should check it out. And I put it on. And I was like, holy crap, it's really good.
I remember hating the bass. I remember hating the bass sound too. So we both hated our sounds.
But it sounds good on the tape.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. Look, playing on other people's gear is a drag, but whatever it was, like I would come out to LA, and I was thinking about this the other day. I used that same DW drum kit on a number of recordings, and it always sounded good.
Yeah.
And I remember it's on Interstellar Space Revisited. It's on my duet record with Alex, Espiritu. It's on the Keneally stuff that I've done. And I just remember Rich Breen getting such a great drum sound. Even though that was my kit away from home, I always loved playing that kit. And it's also the kit in the videos that we're going to see today, too.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, Rich is a great engineer. He can get good sounds. There's no doubt about that. And DWs are great drums. Well, it's an interesting story about the PD because I thought it sounded like crap until I listened to it many years later, and I thought, no, it actually sounds quite good.
So what was the date of that approximately?
Oh, God, I have no idea. I don't know.
But,
I'd have to look.
So do we play as the quartet before we play as Bone Structure? Is that what we're saying?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember rehearsing in your basement in New Jersey.
Yeah, in New Jersey.
I remember having to like schlep through Grand Central Station with gear to get out to so I could get out to your place or something. It was just a beautiful New York experience because they were running cable. So like trying to get wheels over the cable. It was super awesome. And then I remember I think we drove in your station wagon or something like that. You had like a big Chevy station wagon or something. Is that right? Yeah, I remember that and parking and trying to find parking outside the knit and then us playing.
Yeah.
Those were great times for me. I mean, any of that heavy kind of adversity thing only made the gigs a little sweeter for me.
We were all young and having fun doing that. Now we're all like, I don't want to carry gear. Fuck that. Actually, I like carrying gear.
Well, also for us being in New York was fun. It was always fun to go and play in New York.
Yes.
Yeah, I just remember thinking, why am I here? Nobody here knows who I am. And that was borne out by the audience and all the people that I met. So, who are you again?
Well, at least you got the again. They were just like, who are you? You got the again. That meant there was familiarity.
You guys are sad.
I admit to it.
So when did we decide to record this group for real? I can't even remember how that happened. Anybody remember how that happened?
I'm going to bet since Vapor came out in 1999 that you decided to record a bunch of different projects for that album because you recorded 5 or 6 different bands and you wanted to have them all on there. And I have a feeling that was, I think what happened is you said, I'm going to record these gigs and, Gregg Bendian's coming out. I keep saying Greg because you're both Greggs and it's freaking me out. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm GE. If you just remember I'm GE, you'll be okay.
Yeah, GE. fuck, is that who you are? GB. Anyway, so I think what happened is you were recording all these things, and that's why Wayne recorded the Spruce Street thing, and then was on the album, and then probably Jeff decided to.
Okay,
as,
right.
As your cryptogramophone thing or somebody's, I don't know, but that's.
I think maybe it was going to be my cryptogramophone thing, but then there was also the Cloud Plate project, which
right. I think
also
it became
part of it. I think I was going to try and do something similar to Vapor on cryptogramophone, which was a bunch of loose ad hoc sort of bands. But then it turned into Bone Structure, it turned into Cloud Plate, which are both great records, very different, completely different, but great records.
And as far as how it went down too, I remember we did 2 sessions there. But my question is, were the tapes stolen from the first session before we did the second session, or did we?
I don't think they were lost.
Yeah.
They were lost, and we did the second session because the first session tapes were lost.
Now, wait a minute. The tapes were this big, right? And there were probably 6 or 8 of them.
Yeah.
Those don't get lost.
This is what I remember. This is
right. They got recorded over, and somebody didn't copy it.
Is that what you think it is? Because all I remember is them being really hard asses about you having to pay them before we left, but they didn't give you the tapes. And then when we said, "Where are the tapes?" and they said, "Oops, we don't have them."
Yeah, it's an old Chick Corea album. Chick recorded over them, I'm sure.
I think it's an L. Ron Hubbard spoken word album.
Chick was short on tape.
It doesn't compute. I mean, I remember tape expense. I mean, you guys are all old as fuck.
Yeah,
so you remember what tape expense means. But are we in the era of tape expense at that moment, 2000?
I don't think.
Oh yeah, that was a track tape recording, wasn't it?
Yeah. Too much. But for all you kids out there, the tape was this wide.
Yeah. All those cryptos were done on like multi-track tape. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And I remember being bummed because we couldn't mix.
Right.
But again,
and that's why we scheduled that at the other session.
Well, they did a makeup because they said, "Oh crap, we owe you because we screwed it up." Yeah.
We lost the tapes, or recorded over them, or did whatever.
They're in Tom Cruise's house.
But I wanted to remember 2 things in this situation. One was that even Rich Breen's roughs sounded good, because that's what we ended up with the 2-track roughs that saved our ass from that day's work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly right.
So we had that, and we had more.
Yeah.
Because we were able to go back and mix stuff. And now, was Wayne involved previous to this? Because Wayne and Rich both deserve a real shout out here, because they made the whole thing sound of a whole, I think.
Yeah, absolutely true. Well, I think Rich, because he did the initial recording, Wayne saved it.
Yeah, the first. Yeah.
I remember getting a phone call from you, Bendian, because I was really bummed that those tapes were gone, and then and I think maybe we had even recorded the second session, and I thought it was okay. And then I got a call from you saying, I just listened to those original references and they sound really good. I said, no, they're just refs. And he said, you should listen to them again. Do you remember that at all, Greg?
Yes.
Greg, you're the voice of reason. You're the voice of reason. Listen to it.
Yeah, you've done it twice now, Greg.
It is something that I count among my skills to play the biggest fan, biggest critic thing. And as a producer, you do that and then you also know that you maybe want to take a few weeks away from things and then have a fresh ear of things. I think that all plays into this a little bit, Jeff. And I like sometimes to go back and say, was that really what I thought it was? Because, our perception while we play is so different than when we're listening. When we're listening.
Yeah.
You guys know that.
A lot of things that like almost clairvoyant sort of things happened on that initial recording. I remember listening back because I was driving up north with Brenda to do a gig, and I was listening to the roughs. And when I put on the very first thing we did, and Jeff and I basically kind of play the same lick and it sounds like a melody that we've composed. I was like, how is that even possible?
And then Greg and I go into that halftime thing like out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was like, I'm getting chills talking about it. That was fucking amazing. It was just like,
there was some crazy clairvoyant kind of connections in that recording session.
Well,
Absolutely.
I was going to say, I mean, that's what is the joy of playing with Steuart for me. Because I always feel like Steuart and I lock it down, to use a phrase, and that we also then know what we're going to fuck with within that and have fun with it until we get bored and move on to the next thing. And we seem to have that sort of similar attention span, but also a similar sense of like time. So, and Steuart is super textural. So just playing with Steuart is, you know, and this bears out, by the way, in the videos you're going to see, because I play with Steuart outside of the normal quartet we have here, and the same shit happens.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we just define sections.
Yeah.
He gives you foundational things and still keeps it interesting. And it's a skill that's like a very much a post. I'll throw to you, Steuart, but for me, it's like playing with free jazz's Chris Squire.
yes. I'll take that. I mean, you know, who? Chris Squire? Well, you know, I think a lot of it just comes down to the whole listening thing, you know, and I remember talking to GE, I think one of the first times he played, and said, man, Greg's got quick ears.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it gets into sort of the shared vocabulary thing. It gets into the really trying to hunker down and listen. And, you know, I think there's sort of like compositional intent going on. So sometimes you circle back and you pick things up. So I think there's a lot of similarities in terms of how we approach some of that stuff, you know, and also we're rocking. So, you know, we're not afraid to like thrash around a little too. So,
yeah, there's another element that's, dare I say it, more metaphysical, I think. When I hear you guys, the connection that you and Greg have at times, and I'm thinking right now of the gig in Santa Barbara that we did as a trio when Jeff couldn't.
Shit, I forgot that one.
Yeah, remember that gig? And,
no.
Well, I remember it specifically. There was a moment in there where you and Greg did something that just literally kind of blew my mind to the point where I just stopped playing. I was like, holy shit, that was ridiculous. You know, it was facility, groove, and execution all happening spontaneously at a kind of ridiculous level. You know?
But I kind of wanted to touch on that in a little bit more detail, in that Steuart alluded to it. I think there was a certain amount of you guys having done in other projects. I'm pretty sure GE and 1,000 other names, but like different people that we were doing improvised song form.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that was actually for a long time, that was everything we did, was like improvising song form. In fact, call it spontaneous composition, which I thought was like the best identifier for what we were actually doing. Because if you start talking about improv, most people actually think, oh, you're talking about free improv, you're talking about jazz improv. So spontaneous composition, I think, was a really good identifier of that, what we were actually doing during that period. You know, it's changed now, but back then it was very much, let's improvise a song, a piece of music that's cohesive and compositionally coherent. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it was often the case that we would be thematic. And that's what takes it away from this being totally free to me, is that each of you would make a choice of something you were going to investigate or develop in a musical idea. It could be a motif, could be a texture. And then other people would say, well, how does my thing fit into that? So just to backtrack to what I said first, was somebody might set something up.
Right.
And then we would paint in that space individually and collectively.
Right. Yeah.
There's also a willingness to make that evolve out and to change into something else.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
where it's exciting for me, because a lot of bands that just do groove kind of stuff, they just stay there.
Yeah.
And while I find that really tiresome for me, just because I'm a little ADD perhaps, you know, but to me, that the evolution thing and then having the willingness to remember what you did and come back to it's sort of interesting too.
Right.
And
right.
also the idea that if you are hyper listening, then you're looking for that next transition, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely true.
Because you want to do, that's almost the hardest thing of instant composition, is convincing or interesting transitions into another area. Because what are you going to do? Just stay in that one area the whole time? I mean, people like ask, what do we think about when we're playing free? Well, it's not free as much as it is like spontaneous,
Yeah.
trying to make things happen by listening to the other guys and saying, oh, that's cool. That could pull us into another direction when I want to go there. Or I think I have something that I'll bring to everybody and see if they want to go with that. So there's a very much a split-second timing thing involved. Yep. So you have to have quick ears.
Yeah. And I think free is the right choice, although the word has been sort of co-opted for the free jazz, free improv scene, because free means every choice is on the table. Every option is available. We can do a groove. We can come back to a theme. We can do a thematic thing. We can create a song. All those options are on the table. And we can do pure texture as well. That's free. That's truly free, but that term is almost political in the musical world in a way.
And I like to say frequently about bone structure, for me, and I know that this doesn't have to be for you guys, but for me it was Electric Miles meets Bruford era Crimson.
That's not
and
bad.
I know Jeff, even though there was Crimson violin, that Jeff, I don't think had heard that stuff, and that's interesting in itself.
I have heard it since.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard it either.
So that was one of the things that I was referencing, I think, was the drum doing parts.
Yeah.
The drum going to lock into the bass player. But I'll tell you something funny about Bruford and Wetton in that rhythm section in Crimson. They were referencing M1 Dishi and Weather Report.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
They said so.
I've never heard the quartet version of Crimson until I moved to LA and Alex played it for me.
Alex played it for me too.
Huh?
Alex played it for me too. That's
yeah.
Right.
Well, it was funny because we were having a conversation about it, and he mentioned Starless and Bible Black or something like that, and I said I've never heard that record, and he stopped dead in his tracks and he was like, "What? How is that possible?" I said, "I've never heard it." And he said, "But the way you play, I would have thought you had actually digested that record." And I said, "No, I'd never heard it." So he played it for me. And it was an interesting record. And I could suddenly see how people thought bone structure was influenced by Crimson. Although I certainly wasn't,
Well,
so, yeah.
You're a very difficult read because, you're so outside of the realm of traditional vocabulary so much of the time that I think you're more of a conceptualist playing an instrument than you are like Mr. Guitar Guy in in bone structure. And I think we all do that.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain amount of transformation in bone structure where electronics, certainly something I'm very at home playing against because I'll be pushed to come up with a different extended technique for percussion.
Right.
To hang with electronic instruments. So I always felt really challenged by y'all's devices.
Right. Yeah.
And I have to say, going back and listening to this stuff, I'm really impressed with how cool the electronic sounds are. And a lot of things I can't do anymore because I don't have the gear anymore. But I keep trying to recreate it with you know, the computer stuff, and just, you know, it makes me
You
want
know,
to go back to that.
And it should be said that that was all done in real time and not in post.
Yeah. So, you know, this is the thing I've talked to GE about. But, you know, you're talking about that thing where there's all these possibilities and you kind of like go in and out of them. And, you know, like you're trying to be open to things, but you're also trying to direct. So, okay. So long story. You've seen the movie Inception?
Only clips.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, there's a whole thing where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is talking to Ellen Page's character, and he's diagramming how a dream works, and it's you're creating it, but you're perceiving it at the same time. So he has this sort of like weird circular diagram that. But anyway, so that's kind of my thing about improv now. It's like you're trying to you know, be reactive, but also be, I don't know, it's a weird Zen thing for me, but anyway.
So I have a question for you three. We thought that these were improvised songs, and these songs have some pretty wacky titles. So I'm trying to remember, maybe you'll take ownership of some of the titles.
Not me.
They sound like Gregg Bendian and G.E. Stinson titles to me. And
Yeah,
I can pretty much go through and decide which is which.
I think that you and I titled most of these songs, Greg, as I recall.
What is it?
You and I titled these songs.
Stu and Jeff, not at all?
Nope.
No.
One of those are mine.
You and I went back and forth, and basically, we would suggest something, and we go, oh no, that one's better, or that one's better. I think like Spirit Box was mine. I don't remember. I have to look at the CD to remember which one was which. But some of them were yours, and some of them were mine.
Well, I'll throw a few at you then.
Okay, cool.
Plasma Wave.
That's you.
Floating Bunraku.
That's me.
Could never have guessed.
Yeah.
I love you, man. Okay. Nomad.
Nomad was you.
Ooh, and I like that title for that material.
Well, and you were titling you were coming up with titles based on the pieces, as I was.
Yeah, I mean, well, sometimes you get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. That one's a good one.
That's why, and I like this. I always thought it was a fun part of the band, so indulge me.
Yeah.
Ether Or.
That was Jeff Gauthier.
No, because I would have spelled or O-R-E.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you didn't. Steel Hair?
That was me, I think.
Yeah, you're a hair guy. Spirit Box, Toothpick Fantasy is you.
That's probably me, yeah.
Demagogue? That sounds like a Steuart.
That's you.
Thanks.
Demagogue?
No, that's you.
And
Greg.
it's so prescient. It's a song for our time.
We were channeling the future.
That's right. You didn't know, Greg, but you were.
I'm pretty sure when it came down to titles, I said, you guys call them what you want.
Yeah.
Well, I always have fun with titles. I mean, what are you doing? You know, I mean, you're trying to have some fun.
Right.
Lock It Down, which I think should be the title of the box set when it comes out.
Box set.
I don't actually remember who that was. I think that was you, Greg.
Listen, don't joke, because it's the album plus all the stuff that didn't make it onto the album, plus the video of the Knitting Factory, plus the Goat Structure show and the Muscle Tone show. That's a box set, my friend.
Yeah, there you go.
And you know, and then there's whatever is left of the Spruce Street thing.
Yes, for him, yeah.
And I have the New York show in my archive.
Okay,
Yeah.
so basically, you're talking a 20-disc set for a band that has done like 5 shows.
Right. It has 20 fans.
That makes perfect sense. in this day and age.
Yeah, 19 if you take out Jeff buying that CD and telling you about it.
The anthology.
Faded Sun,
I think that's you, Greg.
Mutoscope.
That's you too.
I don't know what a mutoscope is, Greg.
I don't either.
Didn't Nels Cline steal that for one of his albums?
Maybe it was.
Oh, that's
his.
Macroscope.
Anyway, I always love this cover.
That's
Jeff,
a
do
great
you remember?
Yes, I found that. And it's a photographer. I think it was State Fair or something or other in New York. And photographer.
World's Fair.
World's Fair, yeah.
That is absolutely the best photograph for this record. It's such a great photograph. It's perfect.
I always felt like we had plenty of clouds in our music.
And there's bone structure there.
Listen, I want to shout out to Alex Klein, our buddy who designed this. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, we usually design things together. Yeah.
I thought it was.
I thought Jeff did most of the album design.
Well, actually,
It was something goofy. It was some other person.
oh yeah, there is. I have a nom de plume for that.
Yes, yes, you do. You don't.
But
Nobody
Alex and I would work. It was mostly Alex's ideas, and I would realize them on the computer in a program that no longer exists called.
And since we're coming up on October, and you guys know I'm a fan, I wanted to tell you that when we went with bone structure, and Alex or Jeff came up with these actual bone shapes for each of us.
Yeah.
That I said, then I want orange. And Alex made the print orange. Right, so we could have the Halloween vibe.
Good, actually.
And if you lift off the CD, I believe there's the round portion of the photograph on the cover, right?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Oh, cool.
And that kind of follow through at Cryptogrammophone was all the time.
We're known for that.
That was a great photo. I love that photograph. It's one of my favorite album photographs. Fabulous.
And so what are we doing? We're setting up a vibe. We were setting up vibes. We tried to change the vibe for every piece. We tried not to be repeat offenders.
Right. But we did visit similar sonic territory depending on, we would come back to similar sonic territory and revisit, but with new ideas a lot of times, especially like from gig to gig, because I remember doing that in New York the first time we played. We were rehearsing in your basement, and I think we had never played very much together. And I said, well, how do you feel about doing similar stuff tomorrow night at the gig? And you said, I have no problem with that. So we didn't do the same stuff, but we visited similar territory, is the best way to put it. Similar compositional territory. And it came together completely differently.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why I responded like, I hope we'll do more of that, because this was a kind of joining together of improv strands that I didn't get to do on the New York scene with, free jazz people like Peter Brotzman and Cecil Taylor and Derek Bailey. It wouldn't have really worked stylistically, but being able to sort of have a safe space with you guys, knowing that Steuart could go there with me and we could, or go get completely color and texture. And that, there'd always be things that we could do that included rhythm. And because I had always felt that, I hate to use, Xenakis might be behind me in one of these shots, but yeah, there he is. Periodicity, or the regular movement of rhythm that some people would call pulse, is not something that exists a terrible lot in free jazz.
Yeah, so, neither does melody, unfortunately. And that's, and melody is part of music. Why not use it? Yeah, pulse is great. I think all of us come from I know Steuart does, and from and I come from blues R&B background. I mean, Steuart played with Les McCann, so groove is vital, in my world. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'd always wanted a shot at what does groove sound like in a post-conventional rock band, right? Because of course I was obsessed with Beefheart. You want to talk about post-conventional rock band and the idea of the drummer as playing lines in a part, and that everybody had parts and everybody had maybe different parts, and all these parts could come together. And when I came in contact with Gary Lucas, before I recorded with Gary Lucas before I recorded with Zoot and Rollo, and Gary would have none of it. He didn't want to do anything to do with Beefheart.
Really?
Even if it was an improvised thing, I'd be like, well, we could come up with improvised Beefheart tunes. He's like, no, not interested. And he was discovering Jeff Buckley around that time, and the rest is history. But no, I always thought that this was an area, a terrain that with the right people, the right guitarist, the right bass player, you could create rhythmically interesting improvised rock music.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why not? Right? I mean, basically that's what inspired Miles to start doing the electric stuff, you know, with Sly and the Family Stone and what, Betty Davis, wasn't that the girl that he was dating?
But then you had He Loved Him Madly, where it's basically ambient Electric Miles.
Right.
So, and so Bone Structure could go ambient.
Yeah.
Bone Structure could go micro and kind of just full textural chamber. So that's why it holds a dear place in my heart. And you guys, you know, I love that we did that and that we documented it.
Right. It exists in the world.
So when's the reunion tour?
This is it.
Post-pandemic.
This is it, brother.
Never leaving the house again.
We lost Jeff.
Hello, Jeff?
He got bored with this.
I hope
No,
he didn't.
The screen was freezing, which is why I disappeared.
I'm going to let Jeff back in.
Is he back yet? I don't want to say anything bad about him. Oh, there he is.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
It's all right, guys. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Everything okay?
There you go.
Did the screen freeze?
No.
Oh, okay.
I had to move the computer when Greg wanted something interesting in the background, and I did that, and I plugged the power supply into the computer, but I forgot to plug it into the wall.
Ran out of power.
I'm not proud of it.
That's all right.
But now you've immortalized it for YouTube for generations.
Don't worry. Nobody's going to care. In 10 years, no one will care.
Yeah, we won't care particularly.
Not about that.
Not anything.
They'll care about that fan behind you, though.
Yeah.
Gregg Bendian.
Sir.
I want to talk about Toothpick Fantasy because I had totally forgotten about that until I went back and revisited the album. And man, that was some inspired shit and some great piano playing. And have you done much piano playing on your oeuvre? I mean, I'm familiar with some, but I don't remember very much of it.
Well, piano is a love of mine. I'm not a good piano player. I'm good at making certain things happen on the piano. I've used it as an instrument to compose, and I am able to improvise on it. You wouldn't want to hear me play over changes on it, but there's a sort of connection between me with the piano and the vibraphone.
Yeah.
Or the piano and the keyboard percussion, whatever, xylophone, marimba, whatever.
Right.
You have to have that. So
Right.
I have a clue. And let me just do a shout out to Alex and Nels and say, I have a chop.
You have to stop.
Well, there's also that tune Trojan Horse Fantasy or whatever it is on Vapor, and you play piano on that.
Wooden horse.
A word about my piano playing in the context of Bone Structure is I would have loved to have played marimba or vibraphone in the context of Bone Structure. And it didn't happen for, I think, gear reasons. but I
Yeah.
had the Glock.
Right.
And so the idea of the Glock and the piano being on Nomad together,
Right.
because I kind of try to split off into another guy, like, you know, that's something that you all do. It's like you become that another guy and then you change to that guy. And
Right.
so I would, you know, in improvised music, I always feel like you should try to do something a little special. And so playing piano, loving the piano, I've written a ton of music for the piano. In fact, I just edited the piece for my dad that was originally a piano piece that we played with the trio with Keneally-Bendian-Lunn, and GE, you were there
Yeah.
at Alva's. So, you know, I'm sending out to great piano players like Vicky Ray, and just because it's a piece that's I think I can play, because it's, again, the same type of thing. I'm not doing like pianistic stuff. I'm using the piano as an instrument, and that's
Right.
what I would do with you guys. So
Yeah.
the difference with like also, you know, Jeff, I was listening to Toothpick Fantasy, and I thought, well, this is the most Cecil I've ever been on a piano. But it was fun too because it was very spare and organized. So like you'd have your low idea, and then you'd have some other idea so I never tried to do too much. And Wooden Horse Fantasy for me is the first piece I play for anyone that hasn't heard Bone Structure.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah.
The first Bone Structure I played, Matt Stober, shout out to Matt, and Matt Jekyll, another great guitar player, a student of mine. They heard Wooden Horse Fantasy and they didn't know it was improvised.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Fascinating.
So that's when you have a four-way composition going and it works, and you know, so great that you put that on your Vapor GE so that everybody could have that, because I feel like that if you were going to play one track for people to say, what are you guys trying to do?
Right.
I don't even have to be on drums. I'm happy with the piano part.
Right.
Because it was the percussion, it was a rhythmic percussion part essentially.
Yeah, it was, but the cool thing about that for me is that you start off with that idea, right? And then you end with the idea, you bring it back. And that's kind of what I was talking about with a compositional circling back, you know?
Right.
To me, that was really effective.
Yeah.
You know, and when we talk about rhythm in the context of improvised music, we can bring audible musical concepts to improvised music as, again, one of the reasons I love Wooden Horse is because there's metric modulation in it in more than one time.
Right.
And always organically.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's super exciting to pull that off because it doesn't happen a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's a matter of playing with people who are don't have a lot of limitations in terms of what they want to do, and aren't carrying sort of like a musical ideology with them is the way I like to think of it. Because most of the people that, like you guys that I play with, are open to all sorts of things, which makes the music a lot more fun and a lot more interesting. I mean, that wouldn't exist without Thurston Moore. So shout out to Thurston.
The record. You mean
Yeah.
the record?
Yeah, Vapor, because that's where that showed up on. And it was actually his idea. I don't know if you know this, because Nels had left go on the road with Watt and left me in charge of New Music Monday. So I was just throwing ad hoc groups together, you know. And then we had Unique Cheerful Events and the trio with Jeff. I don't think that made it on there though, and El Stinkbug.
Right.
But you know, it was Thurston who said, well, you have all these incredible groups, you should put them together on a record. And I saw my opportunity and said, well, I'll do that if you'll put it out.
GE, they're not only incredible groups, they're incredible names of groups.
Yeah.
El Stinkbug is just, I mean, and Unique Cheerful Events.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, El Stinkbug was that you and Nels? And then I found it was Stinkbug. And then I found that there was some weird like metal band in Texas named Stinkbug. So it became.
It was my name. It was my name choice because Nels and I I thought of that band driving up to see Fred Frith with Nels
Right, I
at
remember.
Great American Music Hall, and I said, I'd like to do a band with you and Steuart, 'cause we had been playing with Alex.
Right.
And I said, but I'd like to get a different drummer. And he said, what drummer are you thinking of? And I said, Scott Amendola, but I don't know him. And he said, oh, well, that would work, And he said, any other ideas? And I said, yeah, I want to call it Stink Bug.
Okay.
Because I told him I wanted to be a loud, noisy, raucous, crazy band, where we would be able to really rip it, really go for it, do a sort of heavy, crunchy kind of thing. And then we found out that there was this heavy metal or this like death metal band or thrash metal band.
I don't know, with some dumbasses in Texas. Sorry, guys, if you're listening. I don't know, but
that says they might be nice people.
no, I'm just joking.
I always thought of the name as a reference to El Subramani.
Well, that's
Yes,
what
that's where the L came from.
Right.
That's where the L came from, because when we found out they
kids out there, amazing South Indian violinists.
yeah, exactly. Or El Shankar, right? Too, also a violin. Yeah, so
L. Ron Hubbard.
huh?
L. Ron Hubbard.
It all
Yeah,
gets back
no,
to L. Ron Hubbard.
not him. Well, yeah, when we found out there was a band called Stink Bug, Nels, off the top of his head, without even thinking about it, said, let's call it L Stink Bug. And I'm like, you mean like E-L? And he goes, no, L period Stink Bug. And we all like laughed. I laughed out loud, and we thought, that's perfect. That's genius. Nels is good with titles too. He's excellent with titles.
Very good.
So, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, so shout out to Thurston Moore for putting Wooden Horse History out.
And shout out to Jeff Gauthier for a minute, because Cryptogramophone is a motherfucker,
Yeah.
if you don't mind my saying so, and so much love, so much care, so much exciting cutting edge stuff of so many different colors and stripes.
Yeah.
Jeff Gauthier, you deserve mad respect for Cryptogramophone, and I hope you don't mind me saying so.
Well,
Are you
thank
there?
you. And I mean, the fact that I was able to help some of my best friends and favorite musicians put out their music, that's the only reason the label exists. So
Yeah.
And you did that.
But the great thing about that was that it was done like, I remember you saying to me, I want to do this so I can put out music of my friends and my musical comrades. But the great thing about it was it wasn't done like a hobby or a labor of love. It was done really well. It was perfectly done. The recordings were great. The album package was great. All of it was really, really well done. Very high class, very sophisticated approach. It was fantastic. So, yeah.
I can see on my little Zoom postage stamp that I'm getting all red. So thank you.
We'll color correct for you.
Okay. Actually, Bendian, you're looking a little purple right now.
So,
Yeah.
interesting.
Guys, I want to ask you all what you've been up to recently, if you want to report anything or lead anybody towards some cool product that you got cooking. Stu?
Oh, well, God, I don't know, man. I was doing a bunch of stuff and then the pandemic hit, so a lot of things are on hold. I've done a lot of sort of strange electronica kind of records that are all on my Bandcamp thing.
Mentot.
I did Mentot 6, which is the Mentones and my band Teaneck Quartet mashed together, and I did an album with that a couple years back, and I was just working on a new thing of that, but then hey, a pandemic hit, so no rehearsals.
Well, you should say who Mentot is, because it's a great band.
Mentot is the Mentones, which is me, Joe Berardi, Bill Barrett, and Tony Atherton. Bill Barrett plays chromatic harmonica, Tony Atherton plays alto sax, Joe Berardi's on drums. And then that same rhythm section is in the Teaneck Quartet, which is Scott Ray on slide guitar and Dan Klukas on cornet. You put them all together, it's a Mentot 6, kind of a Louis Armstrong reference. And
It's a great band, very singular, a singular area of music that Steuart's investigating there and writing.
and the new record
like
is gonna,
planet.
the new record is going to be more crazy. It's like, I mean, seriously, it's nuts. It's I don't even know how to explain what's going to happen in it, but everybody's just going like, holy shit, hard. Anyway, so that I was trying to work with Vicky Ray and Maggie Harkins and Brianna Gilcher, thank you. I'm spacing on oboe and English horn. I was going to do another Minim record, but our first gig got canceled, and so everything's getting put on hold. A lot of electronica, trio with Nathan Hubbard and me and Vinny Golia. Nathan and I did a duo record called our third record. It's a band called Tokes, where he's doing drums and like shortwave radio being triggered by drum pads and field recordings on iPhones. I'm doing iPad synthesizers and live bass and effects, and I'm doing live panning. So I'll put a loop over here, and then I'll do a counter loop over here, and it's just a big miasma of shit that's kind of trippy. The records have different vibes. Somebody said they were really good stoner records for two guys who don't get stoned. I guess that's a nice compliment. I don't know.
A lot of cool grooves on them too.
Yeah, so interesting sonics, I think, is the way to put it. So I've been busy, I guess.
Sounds like it, man. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Man.
How about you, G?
Well, we covered this the other day when we were talking about shadow effects, but I've got a bunch of different projects on Bandcamp of all different kinds. One is Ghost Aggregate. Steuart's on that. Vinny's on it. Some vocal projects, some electronic groove projects. They're all on there under different names, but if you search under G. Stinson, you can find it. My mostly what I'm doing live now is this trio I have with Miller Wren and Kris Kristofferson, which at some point I'll probably do some kind of recording with that group, which is really fun. It's very different for me in that it's non-thematic improvisation. It's very free, although we do get into sonic territories that become compositional at times. But it's much more free, and it's quieter than a lot of things I've done in the past. And the other thing I have most recently is a duo with Karu, where we're doing electronic grooves and she's improvising vocals live with me at the same time. That's great. So that's what I'm doing.
Before I forget, and throw to Jeff, I always thought that you shortchanged us by not doing any vocals in Bone Structure.
Me?
You.
Well, that would have been an interesting idea.
Yes, it would have.
Although I've never been an improvising vocalist, although, that's a very different animal, being an improvising vocalist, And having worked with Dwight Tribble recently on several different occasions, I realized that I don't think I could ever do that. I mean, I'm good at doing vocals for songs that I've written, and I even get hired. I mean, I started out as a vocalist years ago, as a blues singer and an R&B singer, but I'm not an improviser as a vocalist.
But I'm not saying that. We could
have done songs. We could have absolutely done songs. That band would have been perfect for that, actually.
Yeah. And you could have done recitation. You could have done overdub vocals.
We could have done it all, a lot of different areas in there. Yeah. I never thought about it at the time, to be honest.
What's that Tony Williams song on one of the Lifetime records where he's singing?
Yeah. That's great stuff. I love that stuff. Yeah.
Jeff, what's up with you?
Well, I've been watching a lot of TV lately, getting really angry.
Don't do that. Stop. You got the smudges going, man. You got the smudges.
We got the Smudges. The Smudges is a duo with my wife, Maggie Parkins, who plays the cello. And so we've been doing a few little COVID gigs and doing some recording here back in Goat Park Studio. You can
Goat Park Studios?
Hey, why not?
I like that.
So yeah, I think that Maggie's teaching at Pomona College now, so I think the recording's kind of settled down a little bit, but you know, some older tunes, some newer ones, trying to kind of combine what she does is more kind of like new music style improvisation with whatever the hell I do, which is kind of some song form composition. So
I like to point out here that Maggie is an incredible cello player. So it's a really good string project with the two of them. She's a naturally gifted improviser.
yeah, it took me about 10 years of marriage to really work up the
courage.
courage to play, to ask her to play with me. So there you
Well,
go.
we were lucky we got to do the Nels Cline project with Maggie,
That's right.
you know, and that was the first time I'd ever played with her. And you know, she blew my mind every time we played. When the second project we did with Alex, the Flower Garland Orchestra, her improvs during those recordings and performances were some of the highlights for me. It was amazing stuff. She's super cool. We love Maggie.
Yes, we do.
Where can people find that stuff, Jeff?
Oh, they can.
Yeah, but
Wait.
It's on my hard drive, right? I can show you the hard drive if you want.
Didn't Kara put up some of your gig?
Sorry, what?
Hey, Jeff,
Yes.
didn't Kara Volman put up some of your gig from
Wait, is that
ARC
is that
up on
Steuart? Is that
her
your
site?
Steuart? Maybe I'm not entirely sure.
It's possible. I know
I'm
that
just
she
kind
was
of
going.
waiting for those videos, waiting for her to tell me about them. And
Yeah, well, me too, because I played some stuff there that I was told was going to happen. But anyway, I thought maybe she had done it. But
yeah, we did the trio with Vinny there, if that exists. Yeah.
I think that everything's been videoed. It's just not whether or not, you know, she's had a lot of familial stuff she's had to deal with. So
Right, her mom was ill.
yeah, and her dad and stepmom.
Well, Jeff, you should start a Bandcamp page for the Smudges.
Yes, Jeff.
is that like a CD?
No. You just upload, like, wait. You know what Bandcamp is. Now you're pulling my leg.
Jeff, here's what you should do. You should record it on cassette, get a boom box, it's battery powered, and walk around Claremont playing that shit loud.
Oh,
So
I do that all the
know
time.
about it.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Or put it in a CD, roll down, you know, have your subwoofers pumping, and you're like, yo, check it out. Smudges, bitches.
Venice Boulevard, man. Or the Boardwalk.
I'm telling you, Claremont, downtown Claremont.
I'm hoping by the end of the year we'll have an album worth of stuff.
That's where Ben Harper's from.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Folk Music Center in Claremont.
Hey, so
Yeah.
Jeff, so I just heard you say something about putting it out by the end of the year. I'm interested in that. Tell us more.
That's about all I can tell you, Steuart.
That's it? It's too secret?
No, it's you know, I got a couple more tunes to write. We got about, 3-4 more tunes to record.
Uh-huh.
I've got to wait for my busy wife to have a few moments to, spend some time helping me do that.
I just wanted a little bit more, you time on screen. I want to see if you turn red again.
So we also had these offshoot projects when we wanted to play and maybe somebody couldn't make it, and there were two that I remember very well, and we actually have footage of those. One was when we went to Chicago, I think in the dead of winter. Is that right?
And Jeff,
It was
Jeff-
close. Yeah, it was a freezing rain.
And Jeff was ill, I think.
It was
Yes.
yes.
And so we still played, but we called it Musculature Trio.
Or muscle tone or something
Muscle
like
Tone.
yeah, something like that, yeah.
something like yeah.
And that was interesting too, because, going from a quartet to a trio gives you a kind of more space in a way, but I think
Yeah.
we also may have, do you recall how it went?
I recall the gig going well. I recall the freezing rain sort of inhibiting certain aspects of it, but I recall the playing going pretty well. And we did sort of open up and stretch out in a different way. And there was a lot more featuring of Steuart and Gregg in like what I would call rip roaring, like rhythm section stuff, with some raging noise over the top of it.
I'm really surprised at that Knitting Factory's 2001 because I was trying to place it because of a shirt I had on. So. But actually, that makes sense.
Why we were on BET? I mean, this makes no sense.
They were. I think they were the only channel who would broadcast that stuff.
My other favorite thing about it is it's BET and the poster picture of it is Nels.
It's Nels.
It's Nels.
As if he was left-handed. Right.
Right. Yeah.
We did one of those for Splinter Group too, but I don't have a copy of that.
And he is left-handed, by the way.
Yeah, but he
is left-handed. That's true.
Doesn't play left-handed though. Okay, so 2001. Okay.
So my thought was, I feel like I did that before my son was born. He was born in April of 01, because I wouldn't have just busted out to the Knitting Factory with, a newborn at home, I don't think. So I'm trying to. It could have been March. It could have been, like right in the front part of the year.
I don't remember.
That makes sense. That does make sense. Okay.
But we have that, and it's a substantial program. And yeah, that was a funny thing, just to, say that we got on cable TV with the band.
That's pretty weird if you think about it.
And again, people saw it. So they, people come up to me and say, "Yeah, I saw you guys on BET."
Yeah.
Oh, you're the one.
Yeah. Well,
I still get those residual checks,
What's that?
I still get those residual checks.
Wait, you haven't been sharing them. Say what?
That's so funny because I had friends from the Zen community who would come across those videos on BET, and I'm going, "What are you watching BET Jazz for?" Because they're not those kind of folks, but they were channel surfing and they see me and they go, "Oh, there's him, that guy," and they listen, and invariably they'll say, "That music's kind of scary."
Which, just to share an LA memory, you guys all know and love Rocco.
Yeah.
And I remember playing the Rocco in Bel Air Club, and Matt was working at the door. Matt Piper?
Yeah, Matt Piper.
Shout out to Matt. And Matt, Interzone was playing, and the door was open on a nice evening, and Tom Jones rolled up in his Porsche with the top down, and Matt saw him, made eye contact with him, and he said, "Hey, Tom, want to come in? We got music tonight." And Tom listened to Interzone for a few seconds, and he said, "The music is scary tonight," and he drove off.
That's great.
I swear to God. And Matt gave me that. One of my favorite music stories of my life is that Tom Jones, no thanks, and just pulled off when he heard Interzone.
Okay,
so I have to say is, it's not unusual.
It was too unusual, Jeff.
So dude, when you do the Interzone box, you put that anecdote in there.
Yeah.
You can't not have that in there if you do an Interzone box.
It actually gets a little crazier. That's the same night that Paul Stanley came and ate dinner there while we were sound checking, and he was with Rachel Hunter.
Oh, how weird. That's so weird.
And they just ate, and we were sound checking all the weirdness, and they were eating while we were sound checking. And then Tom Jones later that night, and I just thought, thank you, Rocco.
Yeah, that was an interesting place to play and hear music. Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
Rocco always took care of you. You always had a good kitchen. There was always beautiful wine. You couldn't feel more welcome. Yeah. I always thank Rocco for that. I always think of, all the stuff that Rocco did for this music, and everything that you guys have done in the Cline Bro Co, as I call them. I always felt welcome. I could come out and stay at Thelma Klein's, and Alex and Nels would be in and out of that place, and all you guys would be in and out of there. I'd stay at GE's. I'd stay at Jeff's in Venice. And I always felt like I had a home away from home in Los Angeles, and always felt so welcome and just so plugged into a really cool thing.
Yeah, for me, coming to New York and being able to play with you, you know, the few times that we did it was so great. I mean, playing with Mia Masaoka at what was the name of that club we played that we did the trio? It was in the Lower East Side.
Tonic?
Tonic, right. We played with Mia there, and that was always a blast.
Well, you beat me to it, GE, because I was going to say, and I was always so excited to have you guys come to New York so I could show my New York friends my LA friends.
Yeah. That was always fun, man.
Yeah.
I love all you guys, and you know, it's too bad we don't get to hang out more. But this is fun. We should do this every week.
Yeah. No
and I
one
also
anymore, man.
Yeah, we don't hang out, but we did hang out at the Baked Potato for my 50th birthday concert.
Yeah.
All you mofos were there.
I was in New York. I was in.
Oh, Steuart.
I was on a weird
Thankfully, I got to play with Doug Lunn that night, which was a great honor and privilege to play with Doug before he passed away.
That's right. We did a trio with Doug, GE.
Right. It was great. It was fabulous. Doug was a sweetheart and a wonderful guy.
And Jeff played on the extravaganza at the end.
Right.
Or what? No, you played on a quartet with Fumo and with me. Is that right?
I have a vague memory of that.
Yeah.
I do remember playing. I don't remember exactly.
You know that medicine you
I
left?
do remember all the violinists in the audience because I think Lauren Baba was there. And
Yeah, Lauren Baba was there, right.
Right. Well, I had a string trio performing my chamber stuff with Lauren Baba, Miguel Atwood Ferguson, and Artam Manoukian, wonderful cellist that Lauren had put together to play my stuff.
Yeah.
So I was spoiled rotten by you guys, and
That was a fun night, man, and you treated everybody really great, took everyone out for dinner. It was a fun hang. And it was the first time I've ever been in the Baked Potato.
me too, actually.
Legendary LA Club.
it was remarked upon that it was perhaps the oddest baked potato grouping of all time.
Without a doubt.
And we went until 3 in the morning, I think, something like that.
We went pretty late.
And
I'm pretty happy about that, as I remember.
and the guy was not happy about it. But that was such a
Carol
blast.
Kay. I saw Hampton Hall's Carol Kay and Spider Webb at the Baked Potato in the 70s.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's a weird band, right?
Yeah, it's a very weird band. Carol Kay playing electric?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and we did Keneally-Bendian-Lunn there more than a couple times.
Wow.
But it was funny to be able to do something that was, let's say, out of the ordinary there.
Yeah, that was definitely out of the ordinary.
And I thank you guys for that, because that is a very great memory for me. We had a great meal, all thanks to my wife Sylvia, who hooked that whole thing up. That was a celebration of all my LA friends. That I wish Steuart had been there. Steuart, in my memory, you were there.
Well, I've been there. I think where I was in the middle of that tour, I was probably just going, "What the fuck am I doing here?"
Which tour was that?
I was there too.
Tell you later.
What's that, Jeff?
Nothing.
Well, this was fun. Thank you, Mr. Bendian, sir.
Indeed.
Are you there? Is he there?
I am. I'm saying thank you quietly.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right on.
Yeah, man. Good times. A lot of good stuff that I'm glad we had the chance to create. And it's still finding people that find it cool. And that's, for me, it's always a good sign that we're doing something right.
Yep, absolutely.
So hey guys, thank you so much for the hang. This has been such a pleasure.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For
Back at you.
organizing this and remembering this. It's a wonderful walk down memory lane.
You guys are the best. I
All
want
right,
to thank Bone
brother.
Structure,
Thanks, man. Take
Jeff
care.
Gauthier, G.E. Stinson, Steuart Liebig. We're going to have all of their website information, find them on Bandcamp, and check out the cool stuff they're doing. Thank you for watching the ProgCast. The support has been overwhelming, and I want to thank everybody, and a shout out to my associate producers, Elias and Matt, who have really helped keep this thing running and looking cool and fun. And keep liking and subscribing. Do it multiple times, please. Oh, wait a minute. That sounds like somebody else's thing.
Nice way to end it, though.
Peace out.
Okay.
All right, take care.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.